Perfect. Thank you, Jeremy, for recording that. We're looks like we're just letting a couple more people in here. So we're going to give it probably about another minute or so. Okay. All right, we are going to get started just so we can stay on track with time today. So just a couple updates for you guys to make sure that you're being aware of. Jeremy would have sent you guys out a email today reminding you about your CE classes being due, by the end of June 30th, but also making sure that you're making enough time so that way the CE companies can get that in to the state for you. So please make sure you're being aware of that. It is coming up soon. Get it done as soon as you can, and check your Pulse portal to make sure that it is recorded. If any questions on that, you can always reach out to Jeremy or Francis, and they can absolutely help you with that. And then I know there's been a lot of questions in reference to different things coming out next week. Randy's on the call today, but he's also going to be speaking next week in reference to some of the changes in some of the forms that we have coming out that are new. So definitely watch for that next week, and we'll make sure that we get that promoted to make sure that everybody is on the Tuesday call for that.
Actually, I'm going to do some of that today.
Oh, are you, Randy? Okay.
Yeah, it's all built into these forms, so I guess, we can redo it, but it's part of the forms.
Okay.
But we'll see about next week.
What's up?
We'll see about next week too. I mean, it's
okay.
the same thing, so I don't really know what I'm.
We had Marj on for today. So, and I had you on for next week.
Okay, so why don't I do this then? Since this is pretty important, maybe I should just tell everybody, or I posted that thing on Facebook. What's the date here? Yeah, okay, perfect. So
do you need to do it today and I do next week, or what do you?
No, these forms don't really roll out until August 1st. I just didn't really look at the calendar. So I just got up and thought that we were gonna have this little update on the contract, because it's basically everything's pretty much solved and it's business as normal. It's part of my perspective. We've had contracts the whole time, and all we did is added a perfect line that says this is what we want the seller to pay us. So I can go over it next week unless anybody has a quick question on it. Otherwise we'll let Marge take off. If anybody's on Facebook, I added the post of the language that was added into the agreement. So, it's simple. It just says, lets us check a box and tell us part of the purchase agreement what the seller is going to pay. There's a bunch of controversy that happened in the past about if we can and if we can't. And it also addresses, it's written in a language is written in a way that doesn't violate our code of ethics. So it's just, everything's great. It's like this never happened in a way. So we'll talk about it next week.
Perfect. All right. So we will go over that next week and make sure that we get it promoted, that you're going to be doing that, Randy, to get more people on as well. So Marge, I'm going to turn the floor over to you and let you screen share. And today we're talking about staging. So I'm going to let you take the floor, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. Other than I'll see if this video, I'll see if I show up, but I don't know what's wrong here, that I'm at this hospital because I dropped off my neighbor for his colonoscopy.
Fun.
So things could be worse. Get checked, people. So anyway, I'll get to my screen share. And so here's why I didn't get everything done last night. I wish those photos were on my computer. I came home after 8 days down at the inn. So through Jill, I bought this inn in Peterson, Minnesota. And I'll show photos. I'll show the website for that. I should probably just go to the screen share now. Anyway, so I've been gone for 8 days and I come home and I heard somebody in the house and I'm in a townhome and I was like, hello, who's there? And I heard something in the kitchen and here I saw a tail flash by and it was a chipmunk is in my townhome. And there was very little, it was messy in certain places and it had obviously eaten stuff. But I was like, the worst thing was I went up to the bedroom and opened my half-made bed. Okay, this is why you should make your bed, right? But open the bed and that's where there was like, someone had, yeah, the thing had peed in it and there was like it was so creepy. So I slept on the couch last night.
Only in your world, Marge. I'm going to be real honest.
I just couldn't deal with it, but it was like, so yeah, my home is not staged. Let me tell you, it's not as it should be. So I'm trying to find which one I want to share with you first. And I've been in real estate for 17 years and a lot of that time, I haven't been like, oh my gosh, super active of, selling 40, 50 listings a year or 100 listings a year. A lot of it's been remodels. And so I've worked on, with several investors and then my boyfriend and I have done a lot of remodels and rehabs. So photos I'm sharing some of them are complete remodels and others is just staging. And, so I've got went in, I wanted to show photos because a lot of what I've done, as Jill can attest, I never changed any rooms or paint colors or anything. It was changing some of the lamps, tables, pillows. I mean, it's all the soft stuff. And all of that just really matters when people are staying somewhere. That's that feeling you get of like that you can be in a space, but all the furniture was there, all the main furniture when I bought this place. So a lot of it was just foo-foo. I mean, seriously, home goods and Facebook Marketplace. So what I really want to talk about, I don't know how many of you, I don't know who's all on, like I got you on the side of my screen, but a lot of people don't want to hire extra help. And I do a lot of light staging that I think helps a lot. And I think working with your sellers, that if you have some ideas of what works, then it's easy enough to talk them into doing some work themselves that'll help with the sale. And that's one way in the door to meet people too, is when they first call you and they say, well, I'm not really ready, is can I come over and take out, that they're just looking for a realtor. And it's like, can I come over and take a look and give you some ideas? Or maybe a free staging consultation. Now you can hire a stager to do that. And definitely at certain price points, you absolutely want to hire a stager. I didn't get a phone call all morning until I get on this. Anyway, I had, sorry, I accidentally answered that call. I just looked up some photos last night of different ones that are that the staging matters, like this little tiny house up north. And if this was plain without this staging and how cute it is, and this is real staging, it's just a cutest little house and they had multiple offers. And it's just, it's only 570 square feet, I think, but it's like, it makes such a difference to show how you can live in the space and how it feels big and how it's probably a good Airbnb type of thing. But I've seen a lot of virtual staging recently, and I really think that they need to crack down. I don't know if any of you have used virtual staging, but virtual staging, I will show some examples of this because some are better than others. And that is an easy way to go these days instead of actually staging a place. But then a lot of times people walk in and they get the room where it's like, where it is actually, here's the room. Is the virtual staging fitting the space? Because I have found some examples of ones where they are virtually staged with the wrong size furniture that is not working, but this room, this looks fantastic, and you can see this, right? Like, is it big enough on your screen? If I'm just
If
putting
you could
them up.
make it a little bit bigger, Marge,
Okay,
that would probably help, but we can see it.
okay. Because I don't think I can get them to pop out, but the difference between that empty space and that space showing filled is huge. However, the problem with virtual staging, if you go to the place and then, I am so sorry, this is like, I'm sorry. I think it's somebody from, I think it's somebody about the inn. That's why I didn't want to completely obliterate it. So here, this was beautiful virtual staging because it really looks like it fits the room. And you can see how, I mean, modern the place looks. And if you didn't have that in there, I found another one that is the same address, or it was a previous photos history. This one might be the wrong one. Anyway, it makes all the difference in the world between having it updated or not. No, sorry, that's the wrong one. Anyway, let me go on to the next one. If you can work with your seller on what they have on hand, it's the easiest way to go. Then to, bring in a full staging, and it depends on the price point. So to me, if you have the lower end homes and in this market, when it's a fast market, you don't always have to stage, but the cleanup, like this would be a very easy bit of staging to bring in, is to have them clean up, clear out things, and it's a small table and chairs. It makes the space look big. This adds something to the photo, and it doesn't look so plain and too sterile. So really, this, you could rent furniture, or you could virtually stage, or you can bring things in. But if you can work with what the owner has at this price point, it makes such a difference in how it looks versus just being, this was a different one that was in that same development. And it just looks very plain. It's not, it just doesn't give that, it's an emotional response. You don't get that same emotional response when everything's just empty. And the other point with looking at rooms really empty, now you look at all the outlets and all the little, and it's baseboard heat and things that can be objectionable. I've seen people, when they're in a vacant house, they pick it apart, like every bit of, the painted trim, how the corners come together. When it's staged, it's directing your eye to how you live in it, and they'll overlook things that maybe would have bugged them if it was an empty house. I don't remember. I'm sorry, I'm going through some of these that I don't remember why I had it on there. I think this one was another virtually staged. No, so look at this virtual staging. Do you imagine this? I don't know if they put a footstool there or if that's a couch, but there's no way that is correct, correctly sized for the room. It just doesn't make sense, like how that room looks. So you want to give them a real perspective of how the space would be used. This was another one that's virtually staged. So there's the empty room. This is one of those layouts that we've probably seen many times, where your dining room is over here, and it's, this is your living room, dining room. With the virtual staging, it makes it look a lot more livable. Like, I can imagine living there, whereas if you come into this and it's like, oh, this is all the space we have, the painting needs update, etc. But that virtual staging makes you feel, they've spent their money on the kitchen, they've redone the kitchen, and the virtual staging makes it look much more homey. This was, let me flash through. Again, this is virtually staged. There, I've got it up bigger. And everything seems size appropriate to me, that it would be okay with that. And here's the room without it, which just brings to your attention that it has a radiator, it has an odd footprint. You know, how do I work with that? And it's not at all drawing you in to want to live there. But with the virtual staging, if they see these photos first, they're going to get the idea. I still feel if you can actually do some staging, it makes a lot of difference on that. Just a second, I accidentally closed the wrong window.
Marge, can I ask you, how do you, like, on your virtual staging, what prompts are you giving them to make it not look like the sizes aren't correct? Or, like, I'm gonna say this, and again, I grew up with this, so it's a little bit different. Some of the furniture looks like it's like that blow up furniture from the 90s. I'm not
Right,
joking.
right. Some of them some of it really doesn't, yeah, some of it doesn't work. I feel like at some point that board has to crack down on people that are virtually staging and not, you know, not doing this correctly, because it's when you have those sizes that are completely wrong and making it look like a huge space, that's as bad as mismeasuring, or, you know, you come out, you're going to drag yourself out to a place and find out that it's actually wrong, you know? But so I do have a handout I'll send to everybody, and I can upload it into the, when we move on, I can upload it into the chat too. But there are different resources now where you can stage rooms yourself virtually, right, on your phone. And some are, you know, it's some of the best apps. And I've had virtual staging done that, I want to skip this because this is real staging, which was good. That was somebody from here. You can, now that I blew this up, I'm just having trouble moving around. There we go. You can have people on Fiverr and Upwork. So I have one listing in Blaine that's on my list, and that one I had a couple virtually staged. You know about this Blaine listing. It was a nightmare and I couldn't get it sold. And I had Blaine. That's Terrace. Here's the one. So I ended up virtually staging the front room. So this was real staging of their own furniture. And then this was virtually staged. I had this done, it was $22. Now there's a higher fee, but I want to say it was under $30 for this virtual staging, and the room itself was, and I sent him the wallpaper and I said, stage it as an office. Don't change the flooring or the window or anything like that, just how it could be in that same space. And this was virtually staged and size appropriate. It really fits the room because he had like a broken down couch. But I said, don't change anything. This wall already was there with the built-ins and the woodwork windows. So I said, don't change any of that. Just furnish it, and the wall color can change. So, you know, it makes a huge difference because people can't visualize. A lot of times people can't visualize how that is. Let me go to this one. This was staging, light staging, but we painted this kitchen, and I painted the brick wall white. That was, you know, did not take long to do. You know, this is, I mean, some of this gets into remodeling versus staging, but there's things that you can do that really up the game and don't take a lot of work. This was already here. The fridge was already here, but we, you know, staged it out and cleared all the clutter. And this was my mom's unit and it had a lot of clutter, let me tell you. So that was, and it sold quick. And this was, the dining room was like a dead end. So it was important to me to put something in there so it looked, and it was just she had one piece, the rest was lightweight stuff to bring in. So I have certain things you'll see over and over the same furnishings. This was my seller. Again, there's the horse painting. And they had multiple offers and they had so much stuff and they had like 6 months before they were ready to sell. And then it came up kind of quick that they wanted to sell, but I had to sometimes you got to very carefully work with your sellers to not, not come out right and say, oh God, can we put all new furniture in here? Because at this price point, I mean, ended up selling the highest in the neighborhood, but they cleared out, I just kept explaining how taking away, and they had a lot of stuff to clear, but it gave such a good sense of how much space they had in that house. And then they went this was just full of books and full of files and they left some pretty big furniture in there, but it did make a difference. They really cleared out their bedroom. I would have done more with it, but this is where they went and bought a new bedspread. They did the work, so it was really nice. They ended up doing a new cabinet and faucet and toilet, but otherwise it was the same. I usually take down the little rickrack things so the windows are wide open or have shears. If you have, if you're a rehabber, if you do any rehabs, anybody here do their own rehabs? I mean, maybe if you have any to share too. This was using their own cupboards and oiling it. And again, in that dining room, I don't think I took pictures off because sometimes I take the photos off because some who bought it was going to do more to it. As you can see, this is an old roof. This is not a fancy neighborhood. We were going to list this house for 180, okay, and not put a lot into it. This, I would have to show you the before photos, but this ended up to be a lot of painting, like painting the front door black, and staging out. This is Facebook Marketplace, I mean, this chair, these chairs. I spent less than $500 and the whole room. And I did have 6 offers and some pieces I keep, like this little red cabinet, super cute, $50. I have a fake flower collection that I move around everywhere, but now it's all at the inn. But these were mostly pieces that were that Facebook Marketplace or they already had. So this pantry, I kept the wallpaper and we ended up just touching up painting the cabinets, having somebody do that. It wasn't a great layout. The bedroom this is the bed that was the bed the guy died in. And we just covered it all up. And then when we sold it, we had to throw the bed out the window because it was hard. You couldn't get it down the stairs. And for the junk day the next day, and then somebody carted it off. So someone took it. So we're talking a neighborhood that's not, and this ended up painted out the basement. Basement was just a limestone basement, but painting it added so much. So I know this is a little beyond staging, but even if you have an empty basement and put a rug down and can show that can be usable space. We took down some broken mini blinds and put up new mini blinds, and that just, I mean, it really changed everything. It just looks so much better. So, on my list of things that can be beneficial is definitely the paint is the biggest thing. And I get white primer by the 5-gallon of a white primer they have at Menards, and it brightens everything up. It's real modern. It's in style to be, clean, neutral colors. It's a really cheap way to go. So yeah, painting. So this was all her own furniture. And again, decluttering, adding flowers, adding a rug in the kitchen, getting all the stuff off the countertop as much as possible. I would have taken those towels off there. I don't know what I was thinking. But working with sellers versus having your own autonomy over what you do. is a big difference. But like this seller had a lot of work to do to their house, and they sold the highest of the neighborhood. We were the highest, but this was a lot of work they did. They took all the furniture out and resanded the floors. And again, big furniture, giant furniture pieces, but they took a lot of things out. So it was a matter of giving them ideas of where the most bang for the buck is. I had trouble with this listing because it was actually, this corner was of the house had sunk. It sunk 40 years ago, but I ended up having to have we ended up having the carpet pulled back and having a floor, that floor stuff poured in so that it was flattened out in the corner, because people were all like, this is very uncomfortable. These were the old drapes that were there. I mean, they had to get vacuumed off, but they look really nice in the photos. These are not, it wasn't bringing a lot in. It was their own furniture. I brought in the flowers and the chairs, their own light fixture, and just clearing out all, and this was just absolutely filled with clutter. And this is a real bed. This is not virtual. This was a gigantic bedroom. And it came down to how much she wanted to spend or do, but it was better to get as much out as possible on that one. Here we had a couple things to overcome, because this is a house where you walk right in the kitchen. They had remodeled it. Lovely kitchen, but it took up the whole front of the house. And so you didn't really have a living room. It has a family room downstairs. And this still sold very high because they cleared everything out. I have to take this. I'm sorry. It's the same person.
I just wanted to
Hello, this
ask
is
and
Marj.
see if we have anybody out there, anybody else has done virtual staging.
I have to call you. I'll call you back, or go on the website, but I'll call you
I
right
haven't
back
done it, but it
after
seems like it's
11
pretty
o'clock.
easy to have some of these
Thank you.
photographers do.
No, I have
Yeah,
it on my
I
phone.
think that it's an
201
easy process.
4074.
I think it's kind of like what Marge said,
Thanks.
though. You really do have to kind of
Okay,
give
I
them
think I'm
really good
getting
direction.
bookings, Jill.
Well, that's good, Marge. We were just talking and asking if anybody had done any virtual staging. And just
This,
seeing if
again, this
they've
was a
had any good luck with it.
situation. So this is where she was able to move before selling, and it was disastrous. And it was so nice that they were able to buy and then sell. And this again sold in multiple offers. It really wasn't too updated. Here's where I put up the shade. I have the Easy Light Wrap shades that cover those bare bulb lights. And it really made it really simplified it. And clearing all the clutter and adding some flowers in bathrooms makes such a difference, because it's just better in photos. It just looks a lot more homey than not. I virtually staged, this was not, I don't have the picture in here because I took it off because I was a little worried about how it would go, but they had only a garage shell. I don't know where it is. Anyway, they had a shell of a garage, just the base done, and they hadn't actually finished the garage. And so I had virtual garage built, and that was again, that was $25. And this was a 900 square foot, basically 1 bedroom cabin. But he had some really nice details, so it was great to show off, like, if you have some up close, do some up close photos of some of the things that are that stand out nicely, that can, that are different than anybody else's. We had this kitchen repainted, and this one, I'll show you one photo, because if you think of a decrepit, this kitchen was tiled, the doors were taken off, it was painted. I added a small dishwasher, had a small dishwasher added. That was, the appliances were, the biggest expense here. I do not think kitchen cabinet painting is easy. That's like pro level, but it can be fairly inexpensive. this was the laminate, this was the cement look countertop from IKEA. IKEA has great countertops. So it was just bright, sunny, not a lot of, not a lot of work was done, and we had to leave this here because it was attached to the wall and I ended up leaving it. But the basement, we painted out, added the shade to the really ugly bathroom light. This room right here, again, same painting. This was I couldn't find my before photo. This room before it was painted was full of cobwebs. It was dark, plain cement, awful looking walls, and had the hooks to hang your screen. So it was a storage room in the back that had never been used for anything. These cabinets were kitchen cabinets that were left over, and we just brought them down and ended up putting a piece of a board on it for a countertop and put new shelves on where the shelf things were already. But on the left, you can see, if you can see this broken away, this was literally some kind of add-on to the house where they had busted through the cement for this room. And it had one window that was covered up by the deck. But this turned out to be, I pitched it this was during COVID, that's what it was. And this was like great extra space. And, someone remarked about it that they liked having the ability to have a home office. So it was literally staged like an office. And I don't have great photos of it, but it was an absolute disaster of a space. So I used to say, I think we were always told, I'm trying to get to my single line view. Where are people? Single line. We were always told don't put money into the basement. And I actually think the basement is now where, you definitely want to put some money into, because anybody now looking that grew up in a split level or something, they haven't had a basement and they're afraid of basements. I don't know what you've come across, but they really are, if they go down, young people, if they go down in a basement and it hasn't been finished at all, it's a huge deal to them. And they're like scared of that. I had some people that wouldn't go in a basement, and I said, we had come to this house and it was real cute, but the basement was dark and, and they didn't want to go down. I'm like, well, do you want to buy a place that you're afraid to go in, you're afraid to walk in? So this house was a hoarder house, and I have some before photos, but this was during COVID, so it was all staged from Facebook Marketplace and things I had. And that was ideal during COVID, to run around and get things off of Facebook Marketplace and find. Because I had got crystal cabinets for the kitchen. I have some before photos of this place, and there was no kitchen. It only had this cabinet, the sink cabinet, that was white, and a stove and a fridge, and everything else was DVDs and CDs. The only place there was any countertop or storage was this back room. And I'm gonna try to go to some of the befores. Well, this was the kitchen before. So yes, this is beyond staging, but painting that cabinet made a huge difference in how that looked. This was, once we'd cleared out all the stuff, this was the room that really the floors, because it was a hoarder house, the floors were in good condition. And I got the light for free from another client that replaced their light and gave me this one. And then we did a stencil on the ceiling. So again, that's beyond staging, but just changing out a light fixture, like from here to here, can make a huge difference. So if you can get your sellers to change out some light fixtures, it's a big deal. This bathroom, the wallpaper was amazing. And I changed out, and I cannot find my after photo. I changed out the light in the sink cabinet, and we kept the wallpaper, and it was pretty phenomenal because the sink cabinet was a glass top and it looked perfect with that. Here was the house I showed before, the kitchen. A lot of this house rehab I mean, it went over 100,000 more. It almost doubled from what we bought it for. This kitchen already was brand new. It just was full of junk. Here's the before on that here's the before, which was literally CDs, DVDs, and paint to turn it into this. And that is not staging, but new knobs on helped, wallpaper helped. It was amazing. So if you have sellers, if you're looking at houses to, that you think, hey, this is a good deal, a lot of times, if it's a good deal, you can end up doing very little to it to make a difference. And I had one more from that. Here's the before of that one we were looking at. That is, the stairway is completely plain, but nothing else was done except the wallpaper was the main. This was all wiped down. Actually, he did paint the hallway, but wallpaper was, and this over the top. Okay, this was the only thing really done in this hallway, but this was an incredibly good first photo to use instead of the front of the house, which really, I think it was almost winter when we put it on, maybe melting snow. But all of that, the details, there was a lot of details in this house. And this bathroom. Now, if you take away the tile of that, this tile was saved. The sink was here, new toilet, and the before is, here's the before. So yes, we needed to retile. It was nasty. But the same floor, same wall tile. It didn't even need the replumbing, having these shower bars taken off. But that was literally clean up and toilet lights and this same tub. So this background, it made a gigantic difference. Again, that was, way over what we expected to get. I'm rambling. Trying to find my afters for you. After.
Marge, could you maybe tell us, like, when you walk into something and you're doing just initial walk through with them, how do you like put an analysis on like budget that you want to allocate for a property?
Sure.
Just, can you talk about that?
You mean like with an investor, or do you mean with the homeowner?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
I mean, I think it's two different ways. I think with an investor, it's looking at, I think you have to know something about houses. They are probably going to know a lot about houses, but we didn't do a lot of the down and dirty turnaround in 3 weeks, 6 weeks, because having more to it ends up being more money. I've sold top of the market many times, or highest in the neighborhood many times because of that. I'm trying to find back to my listings here because I wanted to find Dora Lane. And I'm so sorry that I'm failing at this. Being able to look at what's it going to take on infrastructure, you know, is that good? Are the bones good? And then you've got to remember that it's going to have to pass an inspection, okay? And the inspection is you don't want to like put lipstick on a pig, so to say. So make it, stage it so it's beautiful. But here, when you have the inspection, you find out that the wiring's bad, the furnace, this, that. You've got to know that ahead of time. And I don't believe in just covering up. You know, we've showed a lot of houses. I don't know who here has been around for years, but back, you know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, banks would cover up foreclosures all the time, put new carpet down, you know, do this down and dirty stuff. And then you go through for an inspection with your buyer and you find out there's things wrong. So it's knowing that kind of stuff. But a lot of times, I'm telling you, the best deals are when it's just a cleanup job. And I'm seeing more and more of that as people age out. Two things. One, they want to move into a house that's already done. And if it's not done, they want it clean. And I think about when I first looked for a home, we wanted a fixer-upper. And we were in our 20s, and guess what? We bought one that had been painted white. When we had the offer in, we showed our relatives, and it was a tiny house in St. Paul. My father-in-law said, where's the fridge? Because I was saying, here's going to be our back mudroom. Well, it was one of those where the back entry was where the fridge goes. They had taken the fridge out, and we were already in love with it. We weren't going to cancel the deal, but I mean, just people can be so, you know, they just fall for, it was just such a clean little house, and it did have a little bit of staging in it. So like, this one was, this was a nice house. This was all, we redid the kitchen, we redid the bath, but the bones were good. So it's like, it used to be, we would plan on 50,000. It didn't seem to matter if the house was anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000, but for staging, you want to just be under, it depends on the price of the house. Do you want to spend more than 500? If your sellers will leave some furnishings behind and they're not decrepit, it's a great way to do it. Like, this is not fancy furniture, but it makes the room look good. This basement cabinet we put in hid piping. I've added a cabinet for staging before when there wasn't countertop space. So it just, you know, you can get small pieces that if the seller's willing to do some work and they know that they can get the money back, I think you need to show them what else in the neighborhood sells and what difference it made on the sale. Like, if you can show listings of a similar house and show them, if you clean up this, and if you don't want to clear it out, understand maybe you don't stage at all. But the main thing that I see with staging is having it be clean. You know, the main thing is clean and decluttering. I keep pulling the wrong one. Clean and decluttering is everything for these listings. That if they don't have to walk into a lot of mess, it makes such a difference on how you know, even shoes out of the way, clean entries. I'm trying to find my you know, most simply staged. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find which one was staged really by the seller. And I might be going too far back where they didn't have to do anything, but it was here, it was like declutter. Again, multiple offers. It looks so sweet because they took, and here is where I had a fight with the owner, and they left birds up, but it was a cabin. Like, most of the time, get rid of dolls, get rid of birds, get rid of any of that. But they, you know, they didn't want to spend any money on it. And so it was, can you put everything in the garage or into storage? And it made a huge difference. And I don't have, you know, a lot of client ones, I don't have before and afters like I do of ones that we actually remodeled and rehabbed. Um, I wanted to show you some of the nicer, higher end homes, because if you go to, where am I at? This single family, where's the carts? I saved some rehabs in these carts, rehab. If you have a higher end house, I'd say anything over 400,000, you should spend some money on staging if you're not able to leave any furniture and you don't want to do virtual staging, and there's anything that is an odd layout or something that people can't envision how they would live there, it's really worth doing the staging and spending the money on it. I found this house that if you didn't have the staging in it, that I don't know if it's the homeowners, I don't know if it's professionally staged, but all that dark wood without adding some of this light and bright and also making sense of the space, I think that made a huge difference on how you can see. I don't love the dining set, so it's, I don't know if it's staged, but just like this room, if you took that furniture out, it would be a very dark space. Could be $5,000 for a house, 5,000 for staging on an 800, this closed for less. It's an unusual house. I don't know when it was from 2020. Don't know enough about it, but I do think that she stages places all the time, her listings. This one I pulled because, again, the staging was well done. I gotta minimalize this, sorry. The staging was very clean, very light, bright, adding, and then the walls were all painted white. So you've got that pretty distinctive floor, and then they've painted the walls white. And it's a beautiful home. And in the history, it ended up selling for less, but it had been on and off the market for quite some time. And what I noticed on the previous listing, the pink walls, the artwork isn't really just the furnishings of a house that grand. You're looking at $1 million house and it has this leather couch that's in rough shape and chairs that are not, this is where that staging was well worth it. Even if it went for less, we don't know what all the other particulars are, but that could be that it didn't sell for as much just because it had been on the market a long time, on and off. It had been over a year that it was on the market. So I think it has to be depending on the price of the house. So I've rented furniture. There's a couple places in town and to rent furniture. So I'm talking about when it's self-staging, because I'm sure there's a couple stagers that we can have talk, and we have had talk. And I think that would be good for them to go through their process. But if you are on the lower price listings, the self-staging, work with the homeowner, and some self-staging can really work. And decluttering, painting, light fixtures, if they'll do it, that rugs, all of that can make a lot of difference. You don't have to go all out to get a good price, but people want to feel like they want to live there. And so clean is the biggest, being clean is the biggest part. And I don't remember, I know I pulled this for a reason. Not sure why that one. I want to go to one house that this was high end. Could be their own furniture. This was just beautiful to see. And it was it was a steal, because this is just a giant house next to the James J. Hill. And I had the opportunity to show it. But their staging was amazing, because with these older homes, you can't always, I wouldn't say it was staged. I'm sure it was an interior decorator that they had done their own things, but it was the owner. But like the light, this modern light fixture with this older woodwork, older ceiling, the modern furniture with the older woodwork really pulls in, today's, that you don't have to live like you're living in back 100 years. And then the kitchen was amazing. And I had, if I can find it, I will show the kitchen before. So they had the cabinetry painted black and then this crazy modern light fixture. The furniture's modern and it was just a stunner. It was just stunning. And it was like a dark green black. And then this room off the side had a really crazy painting that was there. Anyway, I had I have to reduce this to get back to history. They had the previous listing when they bought it. And, you know, this is such a price point. I can't tell you what, you know, why did they make money or not make money? They bought it for $1.6 million. They sold it for $2 million. It looks like they put a lot of staging, you know, they put a lot into it with the decor. But it took it from being, here's where it's like, God, you guys, I never get calls like this. It took it from really ho-hum up leveled. So, you know, they could have put 400,000 in. I'm not sure. But that kitchen is the before. And that's just a very regular kitchen. And having those dark cabinets and that other furniture just changed everything about it. It was really amazing. So even if it was just, you know, even if it was a remodel, but that was just the most beautiful place I'd seen on Summit Avenue as far as, you know, a before and after kind of thing. It was just, I wanted to add that one in there. And there was, I don't know, there was one other one that I wanted to go through. But having, you know, having the price point, if you're selling for $1 million, why wouldn't you put in 10,000? I mean, that's where it becomes, you know, how would you not upscale your place, you know, 20,000? It's like relative to what we get paid and how to make it easier on your seller to get it sold is you want to put your best foot forward. So it's whatever money is what it's going to take. But I do feel like there's a lot of small staging things you can do that are going to make a place really pop, that are going to change how, you know, how something looks enough to have them take a second look. That porch, like that porch photo, it was just, you know, full of junk. That's all it was. We painted the floor and took out the junk. So that was, you know, this was a rug, $20 on Marketplace. It's a really nice rug. These rugs are expensive. I mean, and also I didn't talk about, and I don't have a lot of photos, but the front of the house, it's in my handout. The front of the house, here was the professional photo later. Sometimes I move furniture around for photos. So like this chair was brought in from the living room for the photo. So I'll be there with them and move things around as we take photos. It might not be the same when you're there, but you can move the flowers and furniture. If you have some lightweight furniture, get there with a professional photographer and move things around. It makes a lot of difference on how that looks. I was trying to find one. I can't find.
Marge, I just want to let you know we have about 5 minutes left, and I want to kind of open it up for some questions to see what kind of questions are out there.
Is anybody staging your own listings that's on here? Raise your hand. Does anybody hire any stagers? See you guys, I see you, Scott, shaking your head. Nobody's on camera, so you're getting picked on just for that. Do you work with any investors or do you do any rehabs?
No, the closest I've come to rehabs is I tend to work with seniors who have to sell their house to pay for assisted living. And so I end up with hoarder houses and stuff as well, but I just end up hiring people to clean them out and
Yep.
get them prepped, but I do not stage them after that.
So what do you end up spending to get them cleaned out and prepped? And does prep mean painting too, or is it just getting everything out of the house and a cleaner coming in?
That's mostly it. Once in a while, like I had a leaking water valve coming in from the city, I had to get that fixed. But most of the time, the people have enough money to cover the costs of, so it's nothing out of pocket for me. I just kind of arrange it and stuff, but
Yes.
it
Okay,
depends on
good.
how I write the contract too, you know.
Yep. Yep.
But a lot of those houses tend to be so lived in or worn down that
Right.
they need an investor or someone to come rehab it to buy it anyway.
I think you're right. I think that's a lot of times where, just like I said, my first house, we bought that from the family. We looked at like 3 that were, you could tell older people had lived there. It was cleared out.
Yeah,
And you don't want the dirt. All of a sudden, when it's your house, oh my God, I don't want that. I don't want the dirt. And I
Right.
don't want to change out, yeah. So it's clean that's why I think there's a huge market for investors to be able to just, and investors can make more money when the house looks, has an emotional pull. And that's the main thing with this staging, is it has an emotional pull versus just, just the basic house. Like I had a couple of like the new homes. If you go look at any of those Rydell, Lennar, any of the new builds, they have a house that's completely staged
right.
that your buyers walk through and they fall in love. And then you look at those houses when you go with your buyer and you walk through and it's empty. It's empty. It's just, I mean, they have to spend a lot of imagination to figure out how they're going to furnish that place. And then they refer back to those photos over and over, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think it's well worth the money. It just depends on what level, depends on what your seller will do. But if you can make the point that it'll make your house sell for more money and faster, put a little into it, they, generally will go for it because it's going to make your job easier and their job easier. And it's really a discussion to have. I know I got to tell you, I had one seller that I went in their bedroom and I said, well, this looks like nobody's ever had sex here. It was the worst. It was the most, that bedroom was so sad. They didn't fire me, but it was like, it really was like, oh my God. Cause it was an expensive house. It was a nice house.
Right.
And it was just, so I have said, you really need a new, and the wife usually is very happy to go out and buy a new bedspread and do that kind of thing, but have some authority over it if you can. So it, or work with the stager if you're not comfortable with it. But I think, yes, in some cases when those houses should go to an investor, if you go in a house and everything, like we redid some of those houses, but if you know that it's like everything needs to be touched, it's not worth, you're not staging those. You're not staging those. But when you have a seller who's like, I need to get the most out of it I can, it's like, well, you're going to have to put in the work, or you're going to have to pay to have somebody put in the work. But people want clean. Older people, when they downsize, they want to move into something that's nicer. They've been in a nice house. I see that happen a lot where they go really cheap because somebody didn't take the time to replace the carpet and, carpet and small things that add up to maybe 10 grand, but you can find people to do it. So anyway, sorry for the rambling, but I was just having a little computer finding my photos, having a little trouble.
No
We have a
worries.
good handout for you that I'll put in the Facebook page, or I don't know where
I
you
can share it too with everybody and we can put it in the
Good.
Facebook page as well.
Great.
Any other questions for Marj as long as we have her?
I have a quick
Marge,
question.
I have a, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I have a
Uh,
quick question.
Uh-huh.
So, so, so if you have a seller that has, like, for instance, you show that broken tile in the bathroom, do you bring a contractor to them or do you let them like fix it themselves?
You know what, that one was an ideal situation where it was a death. I've had a couple where it's, after somebody's died and they are overwhelmed and, we never transferred the house. This was a friend and we didn't transfer the house and and had brought in a contractor. It was paid, everything that was done went out of the estate. And so I think it's important, I really think it's important to know the financial situation of the seller. Like my Blaine listing that that was pre-foreclosure. It's like, are you gonna put the money in and get it out? Are they gonna put the money in and get it out? Or is there no money to put in? And then if they're not capable of getting things done and done well, do they want you to hire, or is it your time? Are you gonna get paid for that? Or are they willing to look around and find? So it is totally depends on the situation, on who has the money and who has the time and who's willing to do what. And mostly I think we need to draw them in to show them, here's the difference. These houses are selling quick because look at what they have there compared to yours. What can we change? What can you have fixed? And sometimes it's hard to find, it's hard to find the right people. So I hate to put how much money it'll be to something until I know the house and area and what they need done. But what we used to find, and this was, a long time ago, over 5 years ago, it was generally all of our under $300,000 houses was around 50,000 for fix up. This wasn't staging, this was fix up. And they'd sell for much more. I mean, 100,000 more, 200,000 more. But it was worth, the time and effort. So it really depends on the seller.
I have a quick question.
Uh-huh.
Can you just talk a little bit about your thoughts on, I just started my second one ever. In terms of setting a budget in relation to the comparables, in terms of what's out there on the market now. So this one maybe hasn't had anything done and it's listed at this price versus one that's been updated and
Yep.
it's significantly higher, and how much weight you put into that.
I think that you have to work backwards. So what do you think if this was done as well as this one? How much would it sell for? Are you in the same market, and is it going to take months to go on? Because we know that if you go on in August versus going on in March, huge difference, right? In the buyer pool most of the time in Minnesota and Wisconsin. So it's a matter of time is money too. So do we drag this out? I had somebody drag clearing her parents' house out, and it went on in December. Nobody's out there, right? And it was harder to sell. So she lost money when she could have done less and sold it in June. But I look at what do you think what can it sell for? How much do we have to put into it? Can we set aside $1,000 for staging and have somebody come in and do, is there stuff there? But it depends on what you need to spend your money on, but work it backwards from what do you think the end price will be? Will the market be strong at that time when you're done? And then how much are we going to have to put into this? And there's a lot of calculators out there for that too. I mean, freebie calculators, without being in some group and Facebook groups that give you an idea. Are you doing a rehab now, you mean? Or
Yeah, it was a rental for 10 years and we're ripping out the carpet, putting vinyl flooring in, painting the cabinets, all the trim gets white,
Yep.
new fixtures.
Yep, good. It's just so it's good work, and then staging takes away from them looking at every detail. They come in and they're looking how they'd live in it, and they're not saying those two baseboards don't match up. Little things that are obvious when it's an empty room. Well, I know we're over time, Jill. I don't mind, but whatever I'm okay if there's more questions, but people can drop off. I didn't know if you had any parting words.
No, just want to make sure that if anybody does, leave that next week, to make sure you're on the call with Randy so we can go over all that information.
So just make sure to be aware of that. Otherwise, you know, I just want to thank you for your time and going over this. And it's always good to have visuals. So I
Yeah,
do,
I'm sorry it was so chaotic, but I didn't get them all in order and I have some, yeah, great visuals,
Mhm.
but they weren't in order, so thanks.
All good. All good. Perfect. Well, all right. If nobody else has any questions, again, time is valuable, so we're going to let everybody go. But if you have any questions, Marge's contact information is in the Facebook Connect page. I'll have her share her when website as well on there to get that
Yes,
out to
and
you guys.
yep, I got my easy, I've got my easy light wraps on there, so if anyone has a bathroom they need staged and the lighting is bare bulbs, I cover those and it's on the handout. So just so you know, take a look. Thank you so much, Jill. Thanks, Randy.
Perfect.
Thank
Yes.
you.
You guys have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
I'm here, but give me 5 minutes. I'll come out to that front entry. I'm on the other end of the place, so I have to find my way back.